Good evening, students. Good evening. Let's go ahead and get started. Students in my Entrepreneurial Insights class, let me make one really quick announcement. Obviously, attendance is really crucial for this class. Tomorrow, I am actually going to send out a spreadsheet that summarizes your attendance so that you can take a look. Remember that the sweet spot is that you need to hit the 11 mark in terms of attendances. If you are one short, you can watch one of the videos from a lecture that you've missed and submit a one-page reflection to me. So I've gotten a lot of inquiries, and I'm just going to send the spreadsheet out. You can see where you are in terms of attendance, and you know your next steps. If you do the option for a reflection, then I will need that by the time grades are due. So that's not this week, but it's coming soon. So I'll send all of that out to you via email tomorrow. Tonight, it's my pleasure to introduce our guest for the evening from Under Armour, Sam McCleary. Under Armour knows that every great product begins with a great idea. They recognize that entrepreneurship is more an attitude than a career path. An integral part of the innovation team at Under Armour is Sam McCleary, Vice President of Open Innovation at Under Armour. In this role, Sam is responsible for organizing the strategy and plan to connect the brand with external technology partners, optimize these relationships by applying Under Armour resources and assets to build platform products for broad company impact. Prior to joining Under Armour, Sam was the chief technologist in ESPN's Emerging Technology Group and later in their strategic partnership group. He was also a founder of PVI Virtual Media Services, a pioneer in virtual advertising and sports enhancement that, among other things, produced the popular First and 10 yellow line for football broadcasts. Sam has also held executive positions at both Adidas and Prince Tennis. Please join me in welcoming Sam to Notre Dame.
Thank you, Kelly. So, anybody here from New Jersey? That's great. I do these things all the time. No one's ever from New Jersey. I never admit to it. So let's deal with the elephant in the room. I am the oldest employee at Under Armour. I am sure of it, because I get reminded every day. So I've divided this talk into sort of two parts. The first, I'm going to take you through a deck about Under Armour, our history, and some of our strategies, products, and so forth. And then at the 25-minute mark, you're going to stop me. And I'm going to then show an internal deck that talks about open innovation and why we're so dedicated to that practice at Under Armour and the kind of difference it's made. And if there's time at the end, I'll show you one last internal video that we never show outside of the brand, but I did bring it, and I'll happy to show it to you if there's time and if you want to see it. Let's see if this thing works. Come on.
You said you don't necessarily love wearables. Are you changing your tune?
Let me be
sir. Through the vision and the eyes of science. Yes, science! I want you to start innovate. When I think about wearables, stay tuned with what we're going to do. Kevin Durant will be close to signing an endorsement deal with Under Armour. Lost Kevin Durant. It didn't happen. Not the fact that you can never compete with the Venus. Steph Curry with the shot, 360 with the wrist. What? It's not about the athlete. It's about the team. We control our own destiny. We dictate the tempo. I rolled myself here. We're hungry, aggressive players. Sometimes we're just getting started. This is what fast feels like. Just getting started.
So Under Armour is 20 years old. It was founded in Kevin Plank's grandmother's row house in Washington, D.C., and we're about $5 billion. That puts us third in terms of large brands in our space. Nike's about 30 billion. Adidas is about 19 billion. But we first started off making a compression shirt. And I put this slide in here because the three takeaways from this slide are really important as a foundation piece for Under Armour. The first was to solve a personal need. Kevin Plank was a marginal football player at Maryland. He's 44 years old now. And in the summer, his shirt got heavy and wet, his cotton t-shirt, and he thought it slowed him down, added weight. In the winter, when it was cold, he put a flannel shirt under his jersey because he got cold, and that also got wet and weighed him down. He thought there must be something better. So the first thing he did was attach and try to attack a personal need, to solve a personal need. The second thing was that he focused on one thing, a compression shirt. And back then, that's a big deal because what was being sold was a Hanes 6-pack or 4-pack of all cotton large t-shirts. And he was selling a polyester, tight-fitting mock turtleneck. And the last thing, or the third thing, was that he really didn't listen to anyone. Everybody told him, trying to raise money, it wouldn't work. And he didn't listen to anybody. And he and our co-founder, Kip Fulks, persevered. And so we're about $5 billion today. The vision that we had originally 20 years ago was to empower athletes everywhere. We believe that if we build product for the elite athlete, the learnings coming from their feedback and their experience with our product will challenge us to make better product and also set very high standards for the brand. Innovation is a key piece to this. And I'm going to come back, as I said later, and talk about innovation as it pertains to open innovation. So $17,000 back in 1996 was an order shipped, basically hand-carried to Georgia Tech of compression shirts. Now we're about, this is an old slide, a little outdated, we're about $5 billion, and we're trying to get to $20 billion by end of the decade. So we're having 27 straight quarters of 20% growth or more, which is pretty good, 11 billion by 2020. my video people put this together. So Under Armour's at war. I think there's a title of that one. So as I look forward. So two things that impact us. One is commoditization. What we're truly trying to avoid is not being an everyday brand, a brand that just delivers ordinary product. We really strive to build the best product that we can, and we do such things as we create our own materials testing lab. Most everybody does third-party testing out there. We bought and invested in our own testing methods and technology. So we've got about 50 pieces of equipment. We can do about 500 different tests on shoes, apparel, and accessories because we're trying to exceed industry standards and competitive standards. So commoditization, don't get complacent. And we also have major brands. As I mentioned, we're probably third, but Nike's 6 times bigger than we are. So how do we win?
Under Armour is in a heated battle with powerful adversaries across the globe. But the rules of engagement are simple and clear. The flight deck, tech tees, polos, hoodies. Their steady sales provide a stable platform to fund our mission. It is from here that we launch. The crew, supply chain, sourcing, finance, IT, legal. They keep this operation up and running. They are mission critical. We go nowhere without them. This warbird, this is how we fight. This is how we win. It is our force multiplier, small but fast, agile, and packing one hell of a punch. Our arsenal, game-changing products in core, women's, footwear, and digital. We are locked and loaded. Our engines, there are 2, marketing and innovation. Both must fire in tandem. If out of balance, this bird's going in the pond. But together, they power this jet into action. Our size is not a liability. It's our biggest asset. And from it, we create the most advanced, nimble, and powerful strike force in the world. And we're ready. Any questions?
So we'll run through this slide rather quickly. So what we really try to do is use innovation to sort of lift the brand. And that is to create product that is differentiated and that doesn't look like anything else anybody has out there. I'll show you a couple of products later. In public relations, we get a lot of lift from some of the shows out there on the finance side. Innovation investment. We spend about 10% of the brand's money on sports marketing, athletes and teams. We spend a very healthy percentage on innovation. The whole innovation group at Under Armour is about 150 people. It's of a workforce in Baltimore of 2,000 people. Let's go through this. So the key tenets for us is to make all athletes better, as I mentioned earlier, and the pursuit of innovation. We are a brand. We're also a challenger brand. We're young, and we like that position. We're a contrarian brand. We go against the norm. If you look at Under Armour's global headquarters in Baltimore, we took over a factory that had been dormant for 40 years, and it was the old Procter & Gamble distribution warehouse facility, and we gutted it, decided not to put in walls or gates or fences around it, leave it open to the community. And we like that idea that we are challenging the incumbents. We play well against that. We're also part of the ethos at Under Armour. We're founded by 2 athletes who played sports at the University of Maryland, a football player and a lacrosse player. So 2 things came out that they've instilled in the culture at Under Armour. One is teamwork and teammates, and the other is trust. Zigzag is a big foundation in our brand. We've gone against the grain. As I said, we're a contrarian brand, but we're the first major multi-billion-dollar brand that did not start as a footwear company. Puma, Reebok, New Balance, et cetera, all started as footwear. We started as an apparel company. We're trying to take some of the apparel technology, material technology into apparel and apply it to footwear. No one's done that, and we're trying to execute on that. When others started, as I said, with loose all-cotton t-shirts, we started with a tight tee, and that's our base layer. It's still the foundation of our sales. Still, we sell about 60 million tech tees a year. This is our first ad that we put out there. We actually put on the back of our compression shirt. We thought we were pretty good when we put 1-888 for Armor. In fact, Armor was originally spelled A-R-M-O-R, but we needed to put a U in there so we could get the 1-800 number to fit. Hard to believe. We're full price. We don't discount. And when others are light and polished, we're dark, gritty, and intense. So you see that in some of the athletes we signed. The first athlete we signed was a middle linebacker for the Baltimore Ravens when others were signing quarterbacks. A lot of the athletes that we have now, like Spieth and Curry, other brands overlook them, so we tend to go young, tend to look at those who are overlooked.
We started this thing, and now that we're on top, everybody's trying to knock us off. It's us versus them. We must protect this house. Will you protect this house? I will. We must protect this house.
So that was the first ad we came up with. The guy who was featured in that ad played at Maryland with Kevin Plank. He now runs football sports marketing for us. So we like that position as the underdog. If we have time, I'll show you one more video at the very end.
Day in, day out. 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 Day in, day out.
So Zigzag is a very important feature for us because, as I said, we started with apparel and go to footwear, and we've done it as a contrarian brand. So we were the first to come out with a $60 sport bra, the high-speed cleat that Cam Newton wears, and a lot of your players also wear it. We invented that category. We also looked at how we made footwear. We were spending a lot of time in our bra factory and saw that they were making a seamless product, and we thought seamless uppers for shoes tend to be more comfortable and so forth, so we actually converted a lot of our shoemaking manufacturing from a traditional plant in China to a bra factory, and that's how we make a lot of our running shoes right now. When the rest of the market was looking to sign mixed martial arts and UFC fighters, we went and signed an African-American ballerina. And about 3 years ago, we spent about $750 million to buy 3 connected fitness companies, MyFitnessPal, Not My Fitness, and one in Amsterdam called Endomondo. And it was born out of a personal experience, much like the shirt with Kevin Plank. He got out of the gym, came home, was sitting in his car, looked at his dashboard, and realized he knew more about his car than he knew about his body. Why do I get sick in March every year? Why do we get a cold in October? And so he wanted to create this dashboard for the body. And that was about the same time that biometric data was coming up, and you could start to draw accurately data coming off the athlete with some accuracy. And so that became the impetus for us to go out and buy these 3 companies, because we believe that the athlete needs to be managed or would like to be managed or given recommendations 24 hours a day. So as you prepare for your first marathon in New York, we want to be the brand that speaks to you about training, about hydration, about sleep, about nutrition. And so we are rolling this big data play and all these streams, the data we're getting, transactional data when you buy product or as you download what you eat, sleep, hydrate, and all that stuff. As you download this thing, all that data onto something called UA Record, we're going to be producing something called single view of the consumer. So that's the sum of all your data streams. And with that, with some analytics, then we'll be able to make some recommendations to you. So this is an early big play for us. A couple of companies exited this business. Nike stopped making their wearable. We jumped in because we thought that this was the right time, that the capture technology was good in terms of getting data off the athlete. We thought the second stage was there, which it was accurate, is reliable. And the third stage is to create and give some recommendations based on some analytics. So we'd like to be the brand that manages the athletes or gives intelligence back to the athlete 360 or 24 hours a day. So courtesy of these three acquisitions, we've got about 168 million now self-selected athletes on this site called UA Record, downloading all of this, and that's a huge rolling bucket of data. And the idea is to start making products that are influenced by what you were telling us as athletes. That will help shape the design, shape the technology for what we're building. So that starts the first part. So now I'm going to shift, so bear with me here, to open innovation. So I need to get out of this. So this is open innovation. So the first slide I put up is this, and this is to tell people that 99.99% of the smartest people in the world do not work for Under Armour. They work for somebody else. The other reason I put this slide up here is that at Under Armour, we and my group and my job is to make sure we're connecting with technology first before any other brand sees it. We don't have a second play here. We don't have a backup plan. If we miss it in the marketplace, we don't have a fallback position to just make it inside of the brand. So my job for the brand is take the 5-year plan or any big idea coming down from senior management and make sure that we have the right technology relationships in place or the right relationships with external companies in place to build that 5-year plan. So the first thing we set about doing in this group was to try to create a model that was scalable. So we're $5 billion now, going to be $11 billion by 2020. We want to create a system. So it's not dependent on a single brilliant person or a group of brilliant people who came in and out of the brand and left for competitors and so forth. We actually want to try to build a system here that anybody could get behind the wheel and operate. We also wanted to eliminate the abstractness and randomness that often is associated with open innovation. What do you do? Is there a plan? We have, in our building up there, you have to have a special pass card to get into our space. So we've got the PhDs and so forth. So we're viewed as elitist, and there's a communications problem between sort of our group and the rest of the company. Sometimes our guys are very, very good at creating product, but not always great at communicating it. And so we're trying to do the second thing here in the plan that I'll show you is to eliminate the randomness and abstractness often associated with the open innovation process. And the third is to utilize talent. And that means that I can't always go to Kevin and ask for more heads to get the job done. So get big fast. That is something that is on all of our walls, all of our materials, and every town hall, every meeting you have is to get big fast. And my job is to make sure that we're building great product for Under Armour, but the second part is a little bit more nuanced, which is to inspire the brand. That we're the tip of the spear, and it's our job to take back to the brand what they're not looking for, what they're not asking for, but you should be considering. So our job is to go out there and locate, search for things that no one's asking for as a way to challenge the brand. So we've got 5 pillars in the innovation group. First is discovery. We're in the discovery business, we're in the inspiration, we're in the exploration business. And there's a certain amount of chaos that's associated with that, and we give our people lots of freedom. And we hire different people. If you're going to find different kinds of technology solutions, you also want to look differently. So we have people from venture capital, from Ford Motor Company, from NASA, from the Army Research Lab, and they're all mixed in there together. So we have a very diverse group because I want them to look in the corners. I want them to stretch and challenge themselves. So there's a lot of chaos around this first piece of discovery. We're also trying to get faster, and we're also trying to scale. But in order to do that, we have to wrap some process and discipline around the first part, which is the discovery part. So I like to encourage, as I said, the chaos, but if there's too much chaos in the search and in this process, then chaos overtakes the process and I can't control it. So a little discipline around the chaos seems to balance it about right, and with that discipline, we can achieve some speed, moving things along faster, and we can scale better. And like every other business unit at Under Armour, we have to employ technology and data to get the job done, and I'll talk about that. So we have to become a math house. In this slide here, we used to look for solutions for the brand down here with partners and companies and technologies that were internal or close to what we were, friends that we had, people that we knew, technologies and companies we were comfortable with. And so existing internal was where about a year ago that we were looking for solutions. We've now pushed the center of search all the way up to the upper right quadrant. And that's a big difference for us because we're looking for adjacent technologies. Technologies that are close to what we're looking for, but need some quarter turning or some shaping. And oftentimes they need some pairing and matching with other technologies. So we're stretching and asking our organization, our group, my group, to go out and get out of your comfort zone and push to that adjacent and external area for solutions. Another thing we did in the last year, I should point out that I've been at Under Armour for a year and a half, so a lot of what I'm talking about is done in the last 9 months, is that my technology partners or technology contacts were good only if I shared them with somebody else. And we couldn't at ESPN get anybody to share technology or key contacts with anybody else. If you wanted to know who was at ESPN that day, you had to actually go down to the security office, get the log, and find out who is actually on campus, because no one would tell anybody else that Sony was here, or Panasonic, or Intel was here. So what I convinced everybody to do was to pool their contacts, give them up, put them in one shareable, searchable database. And the way I did that is I got Kevin Plank to start it off, because he's got some of the best contacts, and I asked Kevin to put his in this version of LinkedIn that we use. When he did that, everybody else who wants access to his contacts, they had to put in their contacts. So I used him sort of as the motivator to get everybody else to put in there. So what we ended up doing is spending about 4 days. We put up and mapped in a room 34 different categories: pharma, finance, aeronautics, automotive, etc. And we started to pull all of our contacts from those 34 different categories, and we reduced it down to about 2,000. So now we've got a resource available here of contacts that's shareable, searchable. And the key thing is, if you want to get to Steve Helmuth, who's basically CTO of the NBA, the only way that this is useful is to who's the Under Armour point of contact for Steve Helmuth, the NBA. If it's me, then they know to come to me and I'll make the introduction. So now we have this resource which we didn't have before. Now, what do we do with this resource? So we started to plot it. So I put everybody who is an sort of edge technology partner way out on the top there, and I call them the unproven. So they're your entrepreneurs, your startup, and basically they have nothing more than an idea, but in many respects, it could be an absolutely brilliant idea, but they fail the 3-box test. They're going to run out of money at the worst possible time. They'll get seduced by another opportunity, and because they're young, probably will make a decision not in the best interests of Under Armour. But there's absolute brilliance out there. Sitting under that group is the emerging technology contacts, partners. They actually have the capacity to make something, make 1 or 2 of it, that we can test it, evaluate it, trial it, and give feedback to the rest of the organization and back to that company. Under that group is established technology partners. They have everything that Under Armour needs to build successful product. They have R&D, they've got engineers, they've got budgets, they can scale, they can pivot, they can recover, everything we need. The only difference is from the proven that sits squarely in the middle is the proven technology partners, which don't have to be the biggest. Oftentimes they are larger, but don't have to be the biggest. The difference is we've actually made product with them before. So there's a much higher level of trust, and because we've had a history of success. And the reason they sit in the middle is that we can recover. So if we work with a partner for 6 months, it turns out to be a dry hole, we can actually recover. We're not going to be dispirited and walk away and be angry with each other. We can actually pivot off a tough decision or a bad experience and keep on moving forward. So the 2,000 is spread among the unproven to the proven. So there's several other things going on in here. So what we used to do was we would start looking for solutions at the unproven, and we'd work our way to the center. We'd then reverse that. And we start looking for things we want to build with our proven partners first, and then we work our way out. Sounds simple, not so easy to do. The other thing is making sure that in terms of key allocations, time, people, and budget, that we're balanced. When I got there, we were about 68% of our money was spent out in the unproven. And that's a little over-indexed on the risk. Conversely, if you put too much of your money on the proven, that's lazy because our proven technology partners, BASF, Dow, DuPont, Gore, and things like that, they're also talking to Nike and Addy and New Balance. So there's a constant balancing of time, people, and budgets. The other thing we're doing is when we see an unproven or a startup company, I tell them that what you need to do really quickly is you need to find a banker, a maker, and a brand. You need a banker or some source of funding that you can get to your prototype stage. You need a maker. You might be able to make 1 or 2 or 10 prototypes, but can you make 10,000 of them? So you need a maker, and you need a brand. So I'm the brand, but I'm not a banker. I can introduce you to makers. And we solve this problem, and I'll tell you how. So one of the other things we're doing is a lot of pairing and matching among these 4 different established categories here. A lot of take the brilliant idea from the unproven and pair it to take it to 3M or BASF and pair them up so they can actually be successful. And we're always trying to migrate as many relationships as we can to the proven. So typical partners for Under Armour, because when you make this jacket or golf shirts or football jerseys and so forth, it's a lot of chemistry, a lot of materials. So typically we have 3M, Dow, DuPont, I mentioned them before, BASF, Lubrizol, Gore, all partners, been partners of Under Armour since day one. They are now, they'll continue to be so. But we've also tried to diversify our partner list because we are also an experience company. We're also a data company. We're a content company. So we need different partners as we build out this brand as we go out the next 10 years. So for example, Estee Lauder is a key partner of ours because they're studying anti-aging. So actually I'll step back a little bit. So the way we look at it is we drape the athlete. Estee Lauder is a trusted brand for actually what you could apply to your skin. So Estee Lauder is studying anti-aging. And anti-aging is a quarter turn from recovery. So for example, we're both working on a solution out there that, are you familiar if you take a cuff and you wrap it around your calf and you have send electrical impulses to it, you can heal faster, right? Everybody's sort of heard that. So we've got a shirt that we're working on with Estee and another company that has zinc and silver dots on it. And the idea is that when you sweat, or you have a high salinity, the higher the salinity, the better, that it sets off an electrical charge. So as you put on your compression shirt, you don't see it. You sweat, it sets an electrical charge, and it aids in recovery. So Estee Lauder's looking for that for anti-aging, and we're looking at it so that athletes could run farther, run faster. You can have a great run faster, better than you did before, and the next day, you don't feel as sore. So we're working with Estee on things like that. BMW, Ford, we have a project going on with Ford with their seat division. So when you come to make a Ford seat or a high-end seat for Ford or BMW, it's got top material, it's got foam. They're interested in breathability, anti-stain, fit, comfort, all that stuff. And when you start to apply those keywords, you're basically very loosely describing how we make footwear. We have midsoles, we have outer soles, we use rubber. It's the same thing. So I bring my team together. I sit with a Ford Motor Company team of their GT 500 team, and we sit and we say, you're making a seat, we're making a shoe, but forget that. What can we share in terms of chemistries and materials, approach, process, design? And I'd love to see how you guys would make a seat, make a shoe for us. Similarly, what we're doing the same thing is sort of a computational football cleat. So we're working with McLaren, the Formula One team in Germany. We basically said, we make a lot of product by making a prototype, sending it out to you, you try it, you give us feedback, we get a lot of feedback, we continue to iterate. Finally, we think we get there, and we produce it, release it, appears on the shelf. Suppose we just said, because the Formula One car is all about data, forget the athlete in this moment, just make us a computational football boot. Make us a boot the way you would make it, because we get locked into the way we see it, the way we design it, and what looks good for us, what feels good for us. You know, you take it from a Formula One point of view. So we're constantly working with partners out there, trying to get this creative, discovery, inspirational thinking into our process that we hope yields product. So Los Angeles Dodgers started an accelerator 2 years ago. They get 600 submissions from 40 or 43 different countries. This year was the second one. I guess the number's a little higher. And so we're also looking, because we don't know where the next great idea is going to come from. But we are now trying to affiliate our brand on a non-contractual basis with sports accelerators and incubators around the world. And basically we say to the Dodgers, this is kind of what we're looking for. We're looking to keep you dry when it's cold, when it's wet. When it's cold, keep you warm. When it's cold, keep you dry, warm, cold, all that stuff. So here's kind of what we're looking for. If you see it, channel it to us. And if we see something we think fits your accelerator model or criteria, we'll send it to you. Because what I'm trying to do, and the key thing here is, I said 99.99% of the people, smartest people in the world, don't work for our brand. And I'll have a backup plan that if I don't see it first, if Under Armour doesn't see it first, then I'm at a huge disadvantage. Years ago, we didn't see it at all. We never saw it. We were young, and if good ideas found their way to Nike first, Adi, New Balance, Puma, Reebok, you name them, never got to us. Eventually we fought our way up, and maybe we would get the fifth call. Maybe we get the doesn't work. Kevin Plank says to me, you've got to find it first. And I can't always give you heads. I can't always give you budget, but you've got to find it first. That's why I mentioned at the beginning, we're trying to create a system here. So Intel Capital, Allen Company, I'll tell you about how those play into this. So Scaling Future Show, as I mentioned, when we were first starting off in a brand, no one would call us. We determined early on, partly by circumstance, we were not going to hire lots of engineers because we just didn't have the resources to do it. So we've created something called Idea House, that if anybody wants to submit an idea to Under Armour, you can do it through this Idea House portal. And you will get somebody who will review that and give you a written reply. And so it started off with a trickle of a few, and then a dozen, and a few hundred. Now we get over 5,000 ideas a year. And we take the best of those ideas down to something called Future Show. We invite roughly 12 to come in for 2.5 days at Under Armour. First day you present to key executives. Second day to the company at large, the whole company. And the third day we make some awards. We license it, we sign a contract, we give some winners some cash, things like that, all to encourage this entrepreneurism. So the key feature here in this is who we have who sits and her team reviewing all these incoming ideas. It's a school teacher with a lot of training and a lot of criteria. But what we found was when we put somebody who had a technical background in there, they're always looking down at some of the ideas that were coming in. And so we wanted, because 99.99% of the ideas that come in we're not going to act on, we had to give people a really good reason to come back to the brand, at least be able to socialize. It was a good experience. So we found a school teacher. She said no 9 out of 10 times. Everybody was fine with it. So we put a school teacher, used to be an elementary school teacher, in charge of this process. So this is a quick slide. I'll run the whole thing out. How we're set up in our group here. So we have category. Sorry. We have 9 commercial categories at Under Armour. Football, baseball, soccer, etc. I'll write it out. So we have somebody who's assigned to categories, and their job is to do 3 things: to listen to their ideas, their solves, their needs, not to edit too early, not to be too judgmental too early, and write a clear, accurate brief as to what they're looking for. I want a high-top boot, cleat plate should look like this, should have a wrap around here, whatever the item is. And that brief then goes to to the research group. And the research group does 3 things. They do an IP search, a competitive search, and they make a recommendation as to what partners in the unproven to the proven, the 2,000, would be best suited to collaborate with. And that recommendation with that brief goes over to partnerships. They then down select those partners to work on that project with us. Goes over to commercialization, which is also my group, which then builds that product or takes that project and takes it to some point of maturity where we can then pass it off to materials, footwear, apparel, whatever, something like that. And then tech validation compares the specs written in the brief with what we produced. And if everybody stays in their lanes, follows their blockers, we actually should be able to achieve some speed through discipline. So the way we used to do it was that commercialization had a great idea. They'd just start building it. And they'd take it to categories, to the football category manager, and the football category manager would say, I don't want it. So we'd waste time and money, right? Misallocation. Partnerships used to be able to pick partners without the recommendation from research, because they'd get an assignment and they'd call up Bob and Bill and they'd, oh, I got a friend here, I got a friend here, and they start dealing with their friends. It turned out they're the wrong partners. So they can't select until they get a recommendation. Everybody stays in their lane. Sounds easy, but everybody needs to do that. The other thing, when I first got there, I realized 2 things. The budget that we had for our group is never enough. And I can't always count on getting more. The second thing is there's a lot of brilliance with entrepreneurs and startups out on the edge, and we were saying no to 80% of them, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. We like it. We couldn't do anything with it because we didn't have the budget. So we had to solve that, and here's how we solved it. So went out and got 10 people who are in the venture capital, private equity, sports investors, investment banks. And we said from time to time, Under Armour is going to discover a great process, a great company, a great product, and we are going to be a market maker for that product. We're going to put the power of the brand behind it in terms of we know how to make it, ship it, put it on the shelf, wrap some message, wrap some narrative associated with an athlete. We're going to do everything that Under Armour does well on the sports side. If you think there's an alternative opportunity for that product outside sports, So if the football glove that we're working on with that company is there's an application for a hospital glove, which is actually an example that we used, you go do it. You can own the IP, you can take that opportunity and run with it. What we're asking you to do is, we'll do what we know how to do best. What you should do as a venture capitalist or one of these investors is you replace the CTO when he leaves, you give him good guidance. When you need to write a check for the next payroll or to sustain the company, you do that. So what we're trying to do is create here like a peculiar line of credit. So we'll stabilize the opportunity or we'll de-risk the opportunity on the sports side that may set up an opportunity for you, the investor, on some other space or industry. So we're trying to do two things. We're trying to stabilize the unproven. We're trying to say to any of you people who come to Under Armour with a great idea, but you need money to do it, we'll say, okay, it goes back to the first thing. You need a banker, a maker, and a brand. So I'm the brand. I'll introduce you to some bankers to try to get your idea company funded, and we'll introduce you to makers. We've got makers, right? We've got 530 factories all over the world that make apparel, footwear, and accessories. We know how to make stuff. If it's not that, if it's electronics, we'll find someone there too. The last couple of slides here. One, innovation. I sort of divided. If I had to divide innovation into two parts here for my team, I divided it this way. I said there's organized innovation. That's the innovation that's going on daily at Gore and Intel and all these other companies that I mentioned. And that's a well-worn traveled path between their innovation departments and groups and Under Armour. Equally well-traveled path between Gore and Adi, Nike, Adidas, and so forth, right? But they're big, they're innovating, and we're talking to them and we're doing deals with them all the time. The second part is disorganized innovation. What I need to find, as I said, the pressure on me is I got to find the next big idea first, but I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know who's doing it. I don't know the state of the product. I don't know the state of the funding. I don't know anything. But I'm trying to find the next Kevin Plank. So what I do know is where you and others like you are likely to land. You're likely to land on YouTube or on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, right? So I'm going to run this thing out, I think. Then I'll explain it. We're almost done. So I got to find them first. I don't know where they are, but I know where they're going to land. So what I did is I went to the Army Research Lab that we work with, and I had some guys there who are in their threat detection department write me an algorithm, keyword algorithm. So I've now set up 9 different dashboards, one for each commercial category, football, baseball, basketball. And I'll sit with that category manager, and he'll describe or she'll describe for me what they want. And or my team will then write the keywords out, and then this algorithm will then go start to search these sites, and we'll expand it for what you're looking for. So optimistically, if you sit at 8 o'clock tonight, describe for what you want in your football category, by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, we should have the yield of that. The reason it's an automatic algorithm is I want to be able to do 40, 50, 60, 100, 200 searches simultaneously. Because I said, we've made this commitment early on that we do have no backup plan. There's no plan B. We don't have a room of engineers. If we miss it on the front end, we'll just build it on the back end. We don't have that. So trying to find it first. So we're the first ones, I think, wrote our own algorithm for search. As I mentioned earlier, in the 1 o'clock slot there, financial model, to address the randomness and abstractness that is oftentimes associated with open innovation, try to build a system that looks like a financial model. We're doing prediction, doing some balancing, doing some risk assessment. Kind of looks like the way you'd maybe build and manage and balance your portfolio. So when we meet with people, they say, yeah, that makes sense. You've anchored this to something that kind of makes sense, right? Maybe. Partners. So, big idea. The big idea is out there someplace. It usually takes time and it takes money. Not often, I mean, not always, but often it takes time, it takes money. I don't always have the time, and I always don't have the money. So what we're really looking for is where venture capital, if it's a space, if it's in recovery, if it's use the example I used before, if it's a shirt that's printed with some chemistry that helps you recover faster, you don't feel as sore the next day. If that's something we're looking for and we're interested in, then what I use a lot of my contacts for is to say, where are some key venture companies? Who are they backing in that space? If they're starting to write checks to support companies and entrepreneurs who are building that technology, then I want to know, who are you backing? Further, on the proven technology partners, Estee Lauder, Johnson & Johnson, some of these big companies, if they're starting to write corporate checks in that space for that solution, then I know that I want to put our brand at the intersection of the VC money and the corporate R&D spending. I want to put Under Armour there so that when this emerges, that we're the first sports brand in line and have the best relationship to capitalize on it. It's very important. Again, it goes back, somehow we got to be first. Some of the stuff we're working on, connected apparel, we're looking at all kinds of closures, coatings, I won't go into this, bioproteins, spider silk, high tensile strength fibers, bioceramics. We'll have a very big announcement at CES in January with one of our major football assets around sleep. We think sleep is a critical component to how well you perform, whether you just take a walk, ride a bike, do a marathon, or some other high-level exertion. We think sleep is really, really important. We're going to put the brand behind sleep. We're going to come out with some products around sleep. And I think I end up with what we're trying to do here is we've always had smart people at Under Armour. Now we're trying to couple them with smart systems. And I think I'll show you one. Well, we're trying to moneyball the shit out of this thing. That's the other thing we're trying to do. So I came from ESPN. I'll give you one last wrap-up slide, and then I'll end this thing. You can give me some Q&A if you want to. So always compare UA Innovation with ESPN. ESPN is probably a business model that may never be duplicated again. It's coming apart, right? Millennials are driving it apart, but anyway. So here's a business in which you can secure your inventory. You can buy Monday Night Football for 10 years. You can have a bad game, and they can't take it away from you. They may yell at you in the truck or something like that, but they're not going to take it away from you. You can buy MLB or an NBA for 10 years, and you seem to secure your inventory. You get guaranteed revenue. When ESPN signs a deal with Comcast, Time Warner, whoever it is, for 10, 12, 15 years, that's guaranteed. Ratings go up and down. Assets, properties get lost and traded. That's a guarantee. So I think you're paying $7.49 a month to whoever your cable provider is. So 80% of the revenue comes from us, cable subscriptions. The other 20% is advertising revenue. So 80% of the revenue is guaranteed for 10, 20 years. Here's the amazing thing. There's no marketing costs. To promote the brand, there's no marketing costs. If you looked at the commercials, This Is SportsCenter, there's some very popular things that they now show. That was never meant to be an ad for the network. It was really trying to convince people who lived in Atlanta, in Austin, in San Francisco to come to Bristol, Connecticut and work in an area that no one wanted to move to. My apologies to somebody who's from Connecticut over here. But if you've ever been to Bristol, it's got 19 buildings and 34 satellite dishes and a couple of bars. That's it. So This Is SportsCenter was trying to give the idea to everybody that look at all the athletes that are at ESPN rolling through here. It's constant athletes. It's a zoo here. But then they made commercials out of it, so that's no reason there. And it's a unique pay model, right? Even though you don't use the may not consume the product because it's part of basic, you're still paying for it. And how does that compare to what I do at UA Innovation? I got to find someone else's idea. I got to find someone else going to build it or pay for it. And I think pay for it's the last one. Anyway, let's pay for it. So it's an interesting thing. So that wraps up my talk on UA and innovation, specifically open innovation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, and I hope you found it interesting.
Anybody have any questions? Way up at the top.
How do you determine what athletes to get endorsement from?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So the athletes like Spieth and Curry and some of the others were overlooked by our competitors. I think it's been well chronicled on the Curry recruitment by Nike. They spelled his name wrong. And they put a couple of images in there from somebody else. So we got some of our athletes because they were overlooked, but the other is we're a contrarian brand, we're a zigzag brand, and we don't mind going for a African-American ballerina or an undersized guard or a very, very young golfer. I mean, our two founders are 44 years old. They're very actively involved. They're running meetings and making product decisions all day. So they have a real affinity to the younger athlete. And then some of the team deals we're trying to do in some of our team. I think we've got 34 different D1 schools that we're partnered with. And we're trying to extend that partnership to make it not just a transactional partnership with the athletic department. We're trying to do things like Cupid's Cup so we can extend the brand into other parts of the university. I know Cupid's Cup has been done here, and I think quite successfully. So, but basically, if you want to know the short answer, Kevin Plank, he makes the call on the athlete. Go ahead. You go.
When you remove Major League Baseball, can you talk through any preliminary discussions you had with the league about how they will find synergies?
Yeah. Sure. So the MLB deal. So there's a couple things in play here. We decided to go after the MLB deal because we felt as a brand we needed to have a league deal. And these deals, much like sponsorships of universities, is they don't come around that often, right? So you get, if you miss the MLB deal now, you may not get a cut at it for another 10 years. I'm not sure if that's the right number, but it could be something like that. It's the same with content acquisition, ESPN. If you miss hockey and NBC signs it for 10 years, you're out for 10 years, right? So we felt that we need to have a league deal. We didn't have any. That was up. It's a sport where sort of a center cut sport for us. We're a baseball, basketball, football company. And the other thing we'll do is we're trying to now work with partners. So I'm leaving here tomorrow morning to going to Intel to talk about doing a connected base layer shirt for batting practice. So we're going to try to bring some real technology to baseball by working with these partners. So our deal starts in 2020. So I've got a couple of years to get the right partners in place, build some product so that when we go on the field, it looks and acts differently. Our jerseys actually should be connected by then, right? Why not? They should be. Technology is moving. I'm getting older. I'm not getting younger. All right, what else?
Mike.
Yeah, so how involved are the signature athletes with requesting certain technologies to incorporate into their products? And is that mostly based around, I guess, data collection for training or
Yeah.
performance where?
Yep. So take the athlete and the data and separate it into training and on-field competition. So when it comes to on-field competition, it's a very complicated rights thing. So the Players Association on the pro leagues, so data coming off of players is going to be considered content, and the Players Association or the agency, I think IMG has the contract for Notre Dame, right? They're going to look at that as digital content, and they're going to want to sell it. That's my guess. Unless somebody in here from IMG? No. I think they're probably going to sell it. So when it comes to the athlete in competition, the league, Players Association, the agent is going to have a lot of say over what data is collected and how it's shared and what the business model is. When it comes to training, then all that sort of falls away. The athlete can make their individual, and so leagues and teams will make the technology decision on behalf of the athlete. When it comes to training, combine, things like that, the athlete makes their own decision. And we'll work heavily on the training with the athlete because we're unencumbered by some of the rights deals that are around this whole thing.
Was your team on the 3D printer of the cleat? And yes or no, how does Under Armour increase the commercialization of that?
Sure. Yep. It is expensive. So we 3D printed a sole for a shoe. And it was in our group. So that's a piece of it. The other piece is an example how this stuff works. So we're trying to 3D print footwear because we think we can get a really good, precise fit. You know, the problem with footwear is that you're 8.5, you're 9.5, and my 9.5. Our feet aren't anything alike. We're wearing the same shoe. And 80% of the people have a half-size difference between their left and their right. So footwear has got to be improved in terms of precision fit. 3D will help. So I'll give you an example. One of the people in my team was looking at a video, a YouTube video, of the way that they make watercraft seats and some motorcycle seats. They actually take polymer or material and they're spraying it onto a mold. And they're getting a perfect fit. And it's pretty inexpensive and it's very fast. So they came and said, what if we take that same approach? We'll 3D print the sole and we'll spray the upper. And we're trying to do that. So it's it's matching technologies, but we'll try to 3D print and 3D spray a whole shoe. And if we can, you'll get a great fit. Not quite there yet, but working on it.
So you mentioned that work in a lot of different sectors, specifically with different sports. Does that change the way that your innovation, commercialization to marketing kind of cycle goes? Like, because there are different competitors who are maybe a little stronger in each of those different areas. Does that change the way that you work in those markets, or is it still essentially the same?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our technology, what we work on is very dependent on what our partners are doing and where they're spending their R&D dollars and where they're focusing. I remember I got out of college and I went out to California to work for a tennis company, and everybody said, you gotta surf. I said, all right. So you gotta take lessons. I said, I'll take lessons. So I went out there with a guy, and we're sitting there on the boards, and I said, where's the waves? And he said, relax. I said, I got an hour, but I gotta go to work. Come on, we gotta get going here. He said, you don't get it, do you? I said, I'm taking a lesson. Nothing's happening. He said, it's not you, it's what the ocean serves up. And some days the ocean serves up great waves and you get a great ride. Other days you just sit here. So we're very dependent on our key partners that if they're working in an area that's not of interest to us, that's tough for us. You know, we try to pull them back to what we're doing. You know, the good news is that, you know, the footwear apparel business among all the big players, put them all together, it's probably it's $100 billion business. There's finally some scale there to get the big partners, the big technology partners to actually pivot and do some stuff with us. But we're very dependent on what they're working on and where they're spending their money.
Sam, I was going to kind of build on this piece that's someone's idea. Students know my role with McCloskey competition, right? But Under Armour came to us 2 years ago and said, Cupid's Cup had been running for like 7 years, and that was Kevin Plank's competition. He's passionate about student and young entrepreneurs. So he's had this competition called Cupid's Cup that's named after the first business he had selling roses, a rose delivery service when he was a student at Maryland. So that was my first connection with Under Armour, and I met one of your colleagues, Kevin Cully, and I was really excited to tell him, so I teach Foresight for the business students, and it's a strategy class where we're trying to help students see the importance of looking past the immediate future into the far distant future. Why? Because everybody else already knows what's going to happen tomorrow, but what's going to happen, be the big opportunity way out there. And I was telling him I was so excited because I'd found this video about the MagZip and had read this story.
Right.
And he was telling me, again, to the point, how do you find someone's idea? He said, Karen, I have this whole team of people who do something, they call it trolling. He said, they're just out there looking for what's cool, what's innovative, what's next. And he said somebody came across a patent that had been filed. And these gentlemen who had this patent, like engineers who'd been working in their basements, they talked to something ridiculous, like 100 clothing manufacturers. Nobody was interested in their zipper. But Kevin Plank had told this team, I want you to fix the zipper. You know, if I'm trying to ski and I've got ski gloves on, whatever. And this new MagZip is phenomenal. Yeah. So when I was in Baltimore for the competition, they gave me some swag, and my jacket was packaged in a way that it had a big clear circle in the middle with a bunch of arrows pointing in, and it said, it was the zipper, and it said, we fixed the zipper. So I thought, you know, again, very, very interesting approach, and I love the idea of the network and the opening the Rolodex and saying, these are my contacts at all of these other places. That's very, very unusual. We tend to guard them like secrets when we have these these connections at other companies. But for you to open the gates for that is huge.
Yeah, Kevin, so the first money that went into launched Under Armour was about $13,000, as Karen was saying. Kevin bought a bunch of roses, sold them to guys at Maryland for Valentine's Day. And he also has maintained Cupid's Cup, which is a national student entrepreneurial, it's been a little bit expanded from students, program. He writes checks out of his own pocket. Under Armour doesn't pay for that. He writes that himself, and he maintains it because he realized how hard it was as an entrepreneur starting off trying to sell a t-shirt that no one listened to him and no one would pay any attention to him, and he couldn't get an audience with any companies. So he wanted to do two things. He wanted to reward young entrepreneurs that you can do it, I'll help you. And the other thing he did, which is a byproduct, is he wanted to humble Under Armour and saying, hey, you think you're real smart, you got budgets and you got some PhDs, I'll bet you that guy over there can outthink you. So he wanted to humble our innovation process by continuing to reward and encourage young entrepreneurs. It's great, it's a good program.
We have some student founders in the room tonight you have to have sales, have to have revenue or critical mass of users, but if you think you would be interested and you would qualify, just Google Cupid's Cup Innovation Challenge and some significant prize money that goes to very recent graduates or students for their innovative ideas. It's super. We have time for maybe one more question. Anybody have a quick question?
Make it from New Jersey. Somebody from New Jersey? No?
Do you see any synergy between the Innovation Hub at Fort Covington, things that you guys are going to do in terms of, I know not all the partners there or people with attendance are working on things that may apply to business. Do you see some crossover there?
You're talking about City Garage and that, yeah. So City Garage is something Kevin Plank bought, was the old, literally City Garage for Baltimore, buses that stood empty for years. And he's turned it into a maker in a startup studio. Again, he pays for it out of his own pocket. And it's got skateboard company in there. It's got all kinds of stuff. There is some synergy. You know, it's the thing about open innovation, you know, when it's open, you can sort of look everywhere. And we really tried to go down to just trying to find and qualify these proven partners, you know. And proven partner could be 3 guys in a studio in Redondo Beach that we just work great with, and they're a proven partner. We've actually tried to discipline ourselves. We don't have much, honestly, much interaction or overlap with that group as right now. Maybe we will.
Sam, I can't thank you enough. This was perfect. I really loved this. I learned a lot tonight. Join me in thanking Sam. Students, it's been a pleasure. This was your last lecture. Good luck with your exams, and look for an email tomorrow about attendance, all right? Have a great night.